It always happens in threes. Isn't that what they say? Things always happen in threes. Usually they're talking about death. But in terms of, I don't know, guys going away, you could make a case over the last, week and a half or so, or week or whatever it's been. It's something that is true in Pittsburgh sports. It's happened in threes. Mike Sullivan gets fired by the Penguins, or leaves, or whatever you want to say. George Pickens gets traded by the Steelers. And today, of course, Derek Shelton is no longer the manager of the Pirates. I'm Paul Zeise. Of course, it's the big show, and we are doing the big show every single day. 4 days a week, sometimes 5, depending on what happens. And obviously, when you look at what went on today, the big news of the day in Pittsburgh sports is the fact that Derek Shelton has been fired. We're going to talk a little bit about the Pirates coming up. The Steelers obviously have had a heck of a week, and it's amazing the way that people are going really all in right now. On Omar Khan and, on the Steelers, on their lack of a quote-unquote plan, all that stuff. It's amazing. And I think that really, when you think about it that way, we have to be really, really, really in a place where you look at the Steelers and say, you have to give it another week or two or whatever to see what it is that they are actually going to look like when they get to training camp. Because, again, I don't think they're done making moves. And I don't think they should be done making moves. And I think that the thing about the Steelers, to me, is that they are, still a work in progress, starting with the big one. And that is, the fact that they're waiting on Aaron Rodgers. They're waiting on their quarterback, the most important position on the court, on the floor, and they're waiting to see what he's going to do and whether or not he is actually going to be a part of this team. And until they know that, they probably don't know everything else they need to in terms of just where, they're going to be come training camp. It feels like they know that Aaron Rodgers is their guy, but I think at the end of the day, what are we talking about? We've been talking about it for a long, long time. So I have taken the approach that he's their guy and what else they need to do. Now, one topic that's been thrown around a lot, and of course, when you've got 24-hour talk radio and everything else, the reality is, things get thrown around and talked about. A lot of times there's just sort of subjects that aren't really all that exciting. But my thing is, the one that's interesting is the whole T.J. Watt discussion, because, there's a school of thought, and it's the correct school, that he's going to get whatever he wants, which he will. He's going to get, $40 million. He's going to get whatever, because he's going to be the highest paid guy ahead of all the other guys we always have talked about that have gotten signed. Who I'm not even sure who we're talking about here. Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, the one, the dude, I can't think of his name, the guy from the Chargers, or did they release him? One of the Bosa brothers got a bunch of money, either the Chargers guy or who's the other guy, the 49ers guy, whatever. But the reality is, T.J. Watt's going to want to command that. Now, here's what I would argue, and I'll make this argument just sort of for argument's sake. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't come, okay? If Aaron Rodgers doesn't come, I would say the next move should be, let's trade let's trade and go out and see what we can get for TJ Watt. I know it's probably not something people want to hear, but to me, if you're not going to be the guy, okay, that is the guy who is out there in Aaron Rodgers that gives this team a chance to actually compete, my thing about it is, what are you really gaining in 2025 by keeping TJ Watt around? You might as well go with Mason Rudolph. You might as well, you've traded George Pickens. You might as well not sign somebody like Keenan Allen. Just go with the guys you got. And you might as well also, if you're going to go there, move on from TJ Watt. Get some draft picks from him and go from there, because the reality is, you've drafted enough guys and you've got enough depth at the outside linebacker position. You can make it through. And I think that, honestly, you probably could get something for him. I don't know how much, but you could probably get something for him. And I think that's the reality when it comes to all of these things. If you're the Steelers, you have to make sure, if you're the Steelers, that whatever you do for this year coming up, okay, whatever you do, it makes sense based on what you have. And that is what I would tell you is always the biggest problem I have with the way the Steelers have done things. Sometimes they don't do things that make sense. If you're going to get Aaron Rodgers, to me, go get a guy like Keenan Allen, you know what, and sign TJ Watt and say, basically we're going to try and win in 2025. If there's another free agent receiver that you can go out and get, that you think fits, do it. Right? And, give yourself the best chance to win this year with Aaron Rodgers. But if Mason Rudolph is your guy, it's not going to be, a season where you're legitimately going to contend for a Super Bowl. You'll be good enough to do the non-losing season crap, but the reality is, to me, every move they make has to make sense together. They brought in DK Metcalf to make their passing game better, and he's better than George Pickens, so they have done that. But now, in moving on from George Pickens on the other side, they've got to go get a free agent receiver unless they don't believe this is the year to contend. And if they don't believe this is the year to contend, to me, go get some draft picks for TJ Watt. And you get some draft picks for TJ Watt, you move on from him. You're still going to be a team that probably wins 9, maybe even 10 games, just because you've got a good structure in place. You've got a team that you're starting to get younger. I think that is the most important thing to do. And I don't think that is, I don't think that's really a smart thing to have two different sort of ways you're going. The first, well, we want to win this year, so we're bringing in Aaron Rodgers. Well, then all of your moves should then basically be, we're going to try and win this year. Or we didn't get Aaron Rodgers, so you know what? We're going to try and build for next year and year before. Okay, well, then all of your moves need to do that. You kind of did that in getting rid of George Pickens because you got some draft picks. There's some other ways you could do that, and I think, TJ Watt is a guy, he's in the same situation basically that Pickens was. I mean, he's a guy that is on the end of his deal. So you're going to have to, give him a new deal, which is what they're going to do, or see if you can turn him into a few draft choices. And there's some guys, too, that you can go sign. I was looking. There's a number of receivers that are veteran guys that are still out there that are probably better than what the Steelers have as their second and third options. I mean, again, I don't think Keenan Allen's great, but I think he's good. I think he's better than what they have. I think he'd be a really nice complimentary receiver on this group, and I don't know that he would cost a ton of money. There's a number of other guys that are out there. I mean, of course, Aaron Rodgers and Alan Lazard, I guess, are connected. I mean, there's a bunch of different players that you could look at and say that's a guy, or that's a guy, or that's a guy that really is going to be the guy who, is going to add to this receiving core. But the only reason you would do that is if you think you're going to win. And I don't think they think, without Aaron Rodgers, I don't think they think they're going to win. So to me, it is really, really imperative for them to get themselves in a position where they can go out and make themselves better in the future. And here's the thing. Say they traded T.J. Watt and got a couple more draft picks. They've got too many draft picks now. You can't draft all those guys. What you can do, however, is package them together to move up. Package them together to go out and get, if you need to move up, give somebody a little bit of a king's ransom. You could do that if you've stockpiled this many picks. But again, you have to figure out what you want to be first. Are the Steelers trying to compete this year, or are they just trying to, survive and then hopefully build for the next couple of years when they go get a quarterback? That's what they have to figure out or decide what they want to do. And I think that's the key here. When I'm talking about T.J. Watt, people think, oh, well, you're crazy talking about trading T.J. Watt. My question is always, what are the Steelers going to be in 2025? And if they don't have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback, they're going to be the same kind of team they've been. And guess what? They will be the same team with or without T.J. Watt. And I know that's hard for people to hear too, because, well, look at their record with him and look at their record without him. I don't know that really, it would be that significantly different. I think that they've got some other, they've got some other actual real options, right, at edge rusher. And so as a result, they've got guys that they can use at that position. I just don't know that they would be markedly that much worse if they moved on from T.J. Watt this year and traded for him. I mean, traded him away. I think they would be very similar. That's all I'm saying. It all comes down to, what do you think you are? What do you want to be? How good do you think you can be? That's what you have to ask. And I think that's the thing that really kind of has been a little bit alarming about this Steelers offseason. In some ways, it's been all over the map about what they are and what they want to be. Seriously. And I think that's the key to me, is you can't be all over the map, period. Because if you are, I think what happens is, then you send a lot of mixed signals about who you are and what you want to be and what you really are and what your priorities are. And so to me, I think when you look at it, it really makes it puts it into perspective for me. I think you always have to make sure that all of the moves you make, they all basically, to me, they all basically add up the same way. That's what I would tell you. And so I feel like it's important to note that when you really look at that, it's just so important to understand that you have to be able to say, this move complements this move, complements this move, complements this move. That's what I would tell you. And so I don't think that it's that crazy to say maybe that they should think about trading T.J. Watt, because I think that's the most important thing, really. What is this team? And if they're a team with Mason Rudolph starting, to me, I wouldn't spend any money or waste any time going out and getting Keenan Allens of the world. And I certainly would think about trading T.J. Watt and saying, we're going to try and do this for next year or the year after. That's all I'm telling you. Back to Derek Shelton. We said at the start that things happen in threes, right? Mike Sullivan, George Pickens, Derek Shelton. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. First of all, I think that if you look at what actually happened, and you want to read in between the lines after you read the press release and listen to what Ben Cherington had to say, this is a move that probably came from Bob Nutting. I mean, even Bob Nutting figured it out. But here's the thing. Bob Nutting, is still way off the mark here. If you ask me, how in the world does Ben Cherington not get fired? And I'll give you one even. How about Travis Williams? You remember they brought him from the Penguins, and he was, the president, and he would replace Frank Coonley, and this was a guy that was going to bring the Penguins culture and all the other stuff. I know he went to the Islanders for a little bit, but for the most part, this was like a guy that worked close with Mario and all this other good stuff. He was going to show the Pirates how to be a first-class organization. Think about all the public relations disasters the Pirates have had over the course of 3 or 4 years, just in the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's an organization that, to me, needs a fresh start. A fresh start. And I understand why you don't fire Ben Cherington right now, because that's not the most tangible move you could make. The most tangible move you could make simply, obviously, was getting rid of the manager. Because the manager is somebody that affects what's happening on field every single day. Go ahead and get rid of him. I don't have a problem with that. I know some people will say, well, you could have done this differently or done that differently. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with this, however. You have to have a plan over the next 3 months to move on from Ben Cherington. And if you don't, then you're not giving yourself the best chance to win. I mean, look, Derek Shelton had to go. I get it. He's on the field every day. He's making the lineups. He's, making the pitching changes. He's making decisions that are, actually affecting the game every day. His teams seem to make stupid mistakes all the time, throwing to the wrong bases, trying to take bases when they shouldn't, getting thrown out, getting into rundowns, getting picked off, just bad fundamental baseball. And then his pitching changes are often you're just like, what are you doing? I get it. He was put in a position where he had to try and make, chicken salad out of what. But at the end of the day, he wasn't blameless. And I think that's where, a lot of people seem to get off the rails. He wasn't blameless. He made a lot of mistakes that led to a lot of losses as well. And at some point you look at the guy and say, listen, I forget what it is. What is it, 156 or 158 games under 500 or whatever he is? You know what? Yeah, you didn't always have the best talent to work with or whatever, but I don't think you maximized it either. Clearly, by firing him, you're kind of throwing red meat to the fans and the people that still care about the team by saying, oh, yeah, we're going to put in Donnie Kelly and he's going to give it a spark and all that other good stuff. I get it. But my thing is that can't be the only move. That can't be the only move. It can't be. I think you got a clean house in this organization. I think the whole thing needs an enema. I mean, it really does. You move on from the general manager, move on from the president, move on from a number of the people that they brought in and put in place and try and get a fresh, complete start. That's what I think you should do. And I'll tell you, I think Derek Shelton is a good baseball guy, and he'll get a job as a hitting instructor or something like that. He'll be fine. He'll land on his feet. He's been in baseball. He's got good connections. He's a good dude. You know what I mean? He'll be fine. But to me, in some ways, he's a little bit of a scapegoat. Not that he shouldn't have been fired. It's just that by throwing it all on him, you're basically allowing Ben Cherington to get a free pass. And then on top of that, you allow Ben Cherington to have a press conference to announce this thing. So to me, if you're the Pirates, And I don't think I'm being completely, out of line here. But if you're the Pirates, you basically now, if you're Bob Nutting, you have to look at this situation and you have to say, you know what? Here we are right now, where we're at. We absolutely, we need to clean house here. We need to make sure that we get rid of the problem. You want to know how bad Ben Cherington has been at his job? I don't think I need to, remind you. I think everybody knows. I think everybody understands. But just let me remind you, okay? Year six of hoarding prospects and building a minor league program and all the other garbage that we've heard, right? Year 6. And this doesn't have anything to do with money, by the way. Yeah, he's strapped and Nate's tough, but here's year 6. These are the guys that have taken the most at-bats in year 6 of a rebuild where you were going to, revolutionize the roster and, take the minor league system to another level and all the other stuff, which, by the way, the minor league system, depending on which service you look at, is ranked somewhere between 20th and 25th. That ain't good. I think in Huntington's last year it was like 16th or 17th or something like that. But let's look at the guys who are taking the at-bats, and you tell me if this rebuild or whatever the hell we're going to call it, okay, has been even remotely successful. Most at-bats on the team, Brian Reynolds, guy that was obtained by Neil Huntington. Old guy, by the way, who was obtained by Neil Huntington, right? Brian Hayes, pretty sure he's a guy that was drafted by Neil Huntington. O'Neill Cruz was obtained by Neil Huntington. Adam Frazier, I think the first time Neil Huntington got him, right? Went away, went into the wilderness. He's an old guy, right, who bounced around and, they picked him up off the scrap heap. He's got the 4th most at-bats on this team in this year. Andrew McCutchen, I think, isn't he a Littlefield guy? I think he's a Littlefield guy, right? Tommy Pham, another old scrap heap guy. Isaiah Kiner Falefa. Let's see. That's right. He's 30 as well. Another old scrap heap guy. So basically, what were we talking about here? You've got 2, 4, 6, 7. You've got 7 guys who have at 100 bats or more, and not one of them is a guy that comes from your hoarding of prospects or minor league, whatever, or, rebuilding or nothing. Okay, let's go a little bit further. Joey Bart, Emmanuel Valdez, Jared Triolo. The closest you can get is Endy Rodriguez, right? And Endy Rodriguez was a guy they had obtained by a trade, but at least he was a prospect. And, okay, we want to give him some credit for that. Endy Rodriguez is batting 178 with a slash line of 178, 260, 244. After that, it's a hodgepodge of nothingness. And oh, by the way, the crown jewel of all of this, right? Besides Paul Skeens, who anybody that has any brains at all could have drafted, right? The crown jewel of it all is Mr. 1-1 himself. And I'm not even sure if he's 1-1, if like 1-1 is his batting average, but Mr. 1-1 himself, and that would be Henry Davis. He's actually, he was a crown jewel in the 2021 draft, so it would have been the second draft that Ben Cherington ran. He was 1-1. His slash line is 133, 212, 233. You can't even make it up. If you want to tell me, well, you know what, Nick Gonzalez was ready to be a star, but he got hurt. Okay. Maybe we can give him credit for Nick Gonzalez. But if that's what you've come up with after 6 years, Nick Gonzalez is my guy. I mean, if that's what you've come up with, then I think we've already discussed or we've already won this or discussed this. I mean, if you go OPS, right? Cruz, Bart, McCutcheon. Oh, wait. In 8 games, Matt Gorski. I mean, the guys the guys that we were supposed to get excited about, I just can't. I'm sorry. I just can't. And it's always something with these guys. Always something. I mean, he's pretty much, I guess, Matt Gorski and Nick Gonzalez. There you go. You've proven me wrong. But at the end of the day, I think that, it is what it is. Hank Davis. I love it. I love people with, but to me, Hank Davis is a symbol of what exactly is wrong with the Ben Cherington era. And like I said, Travis Williams, the president of the Pirates, he isn't much better. He isn't. I mean, think about what the Pirates have done. Think about the PR nightmares they've had. There was some nonsense with bobbleheads a few weeks ago. The Roberto Clemente wall we talk about. You had an usher go Bruce Lee with his nunchucks on somebody the other day. I mean, you got to be kidding me. What? If you're Bob Nutting, why are you keeping this in that part of the operation in place? You got to move on from that. I mean, period. And I think that's the thing. To me, you've got a clean house there. You need a whole different perspective. And when it comes to Cherington, again, who's gotten better under Cherington's watch? Where are all these prospects, And if you look, their best guys, the hitters that they have, the best ones they have that you say, oh, well, this guy might come up. Do you understand? All of them are basically in single A or worse. So I just think that when you look at Ben Cherington, it's been a disaster in so many ways. And I think that's where you have no real ability here if you think about it. It's just kind of crazy. But you have no real ability to point to anything that Ben Cherington has made better with the Pirates. Not one. Not one. I mean, if you think about it, it is incredible. Incredible to me. You're two big acquisitions in this offseason where Tommy Pham, who's betting about, 180 or something, maybe, who's most notorious for getting into it with fans, and, Horowitz, who had chronic wrist injuries and everybody knew he did. But you signed him as one of your, guys that you looked at as one of your prized possessions. To me, yes, getting rid of Derek Shelton was a must. Absolutely had to happen. It's just like I said, the Horowitz trade. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on and on. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the thing about it is, the scary thing about keeping him in place for another year is that you are going to have a situation of where, you're probably going to have to allow him to run the draft if you keep him around. Do you really want this guy drafting one more time? Unless there's Paul Skeens available in every round. I don't want him doing it, right? That's what I would tell you. Seriously. It's going to be really, really, really important to note that I think that what happened today is only the first step. And I believe that down the road here, I can't believe that Ben Cherington will survive. And if Ben Cherington doesn't survive, I'm not sure how Travis Williams survives either. Nevertheless, the game is always on at Archie's. Get down to Archie's. Archie's, home of 80-cent wings Monday through Thursday. It is the home of the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich when you get to Archie's, tell him I said hello. Tell Archie that you want to try my grilled cheese. Always have a good time when I go to Archie's. In the meantime, unless somebody gets fired or somebody gets traded or somebody gets cut, I would say basically I will talk to you all on Monday.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.